It's a busy time in Hong Kong racing with an 11-race card coming up this weekend at Sha Tin. Here's what we've got in store for you on this edition of HK Direct. And Exultant and Riven will clash in the feature event, the Kowloon Cricket Club Centenary Cup. They'll take on lightweight Chance Grand Chancellor. Plus, the selected international runners were announced for the 3 Group 1s on Champions Day. Pat Cummings is in the studio to discuss those horses. And as mentioned, Pat's in the studio to discuss Sunday and also Champions Day. Pat, always good to have you in. Sunday, we'll start off there. Interesting meeting. We've got the Derby form being put to the test and also the first Griffin race for the year. Yeah, thanks for having me back, Ed. It's always great, and you do such a great job with the show. Yeah, I mean, this is a big day, actually, where we see some QE2 Cup hopefuls trying to get a final prep in and maybe either go forward for 2,000 or potentially later for 2,400 meters. We see some first-time starters making their appearance, so it should be a fun day. Absolutely, and the feature event is the Kowloon Cricket Club Centenary Cup. Let's have a look at the runners and riders involved in this event. Class 2 over 2,200 metres. Pat mentioning the horses headed towards the QE2 Cup. They are Exultant and Riven, who are coming out of the Hong Kong Derby. Neil Callan picks up the ride on Sergeant Titanium as we go over the page to Savvy 6, who's also coming out of the Derby. Consort Joe Moreira retains the ride as he tries to land his first win in Hong Kong, and Grand Chancellor's got the lightweight thanks to Matthew Poon's claim. So we talk about the Derby. Let's have a look at the race itself. The dynamics of Sunday's race, I should say, quite different pace-wise. We've got Exultant coming wide with his run from the back of the field. Riven was close to the speed. And I know you're going to make a case for this one out the back, Savvy 6, Pat. Yeah, it's worth talking about Savvy 6 almost separately for different reasons, but I thought the performance of Riven was exceptional. This was an incredibly fast pace in the Derby. Of the previous 10 fastest 2,000-meter races at Hong Kong over the last decade, the pace in this race was the fastest. Riven was never more than 2 lanes off of it, and look at how well he stays on here. Granted, Singapore Sling and Ping Hai Star come flashing by. Exultant had a tremendous run to come from off the pace, but Ping Hai Star was a little bit better. I thought the fact that Riven hung on as well as he did with that fast pace, a fantastic sign that he's really in top form, and there's nothing to be shameful of with a 4th place finish in the Derby, having been as close to the pace as he was. And what about Savvy 6? Why do you give him a chance? Wow, he's had absolute nightmare runs in his first 2 starts in Hong Kong. He's doing everything wrong. He's incredibly recalcitrant, and those first 2 runs in Hong Kong weren't bad. So I actually give Savvy 6 a chance. He's a winner over 2,200 meters in his only career win. And he could just be a horse that's plugging along, and the handicap is really in his favor with Alberto Santa carrying just 114, maybe 2 pounds over. He's going to get a big spread on the weights that I think at this trip will be to his benefit. Of course, they're stepping up to the 2,200 metres. As are these horses who also raced on Derby Day. Grand Chancellor, he got the breaks when he needed them. That wasn't the case for Consort on this occasion, though. No, Consort is a horse who needs a lot of things to go his way. And it's tough to put a horse like that on top. But Grand Chancellor did emerge, and we saw something from him that we haven't seen before. He came in on a mark of 80. He's now back to a mark of 81, having won this particular race. But when you put the rest of the field kind of in context, it's a race that he really should have been winning. And now it's going to get much tougher. Granted, he'll be down the bottom of the weights. He has Matthew Poon on board. There are some chances there that carrying only 108 pounds or so is going to be in his favor. But I just think it's going to be a tough race for him. Do you give horses more of a chance like Riven and Grand Chancellor because they're taken time to acclimatise, but we're now starting to see them find form? Yeah, but I just prefer Riven most of all, considering how good his Derby was. For that matter, the Golden Age, who is going to bypass the Champions Day races, I thought he ran a remarkable race, considering just how fast they went. Remember, that was the fastest Derby in 19 runnings at 2,000 meters. Go back, watch the full race again, see how good Riven was. And it actually has me kind of downgrading Exultant just a little bit, purely from a pace angle, because I thought he had every chance to run on from the back. Granted, he covered extra ground turning for home, but I give Riven the advantage. So Riven's a Group 1 winner over 2,200 metres. Is he your on-top pick? He is, and I think Riven is the one for me. I'm going to banker him on top here. I like underneath
Exultant. I'm going to throw Savvy 6 in the mix as well, and Consort 2. So Packing Dragon, I don't think can be ignored. He is a definite pace presence under Victor Wong, so I'm going to throw him in my play there. But bankering Ribbon on top. I thought it was an exceptional derby, 2,200 meters. A lot goes right from there.
It does indeed. 3, 1, 8 and 9 then. Pat's numbers for our feature race coming up on Sunday afternoon. But the big event in Hong Kong racing in April is Champions Day. 3 Group 1s on the one day.
Neo-Realism's got a kick. Pakistan Star trying to reach him with Werther and blazing speed. Neo-Realism fights on strongly. Pakistan Star tries hard. Japan have won the QE2 Cup again. Contentment coming back on Helene Paradon. Beauty only late, but it's Contentment in front. Beauty only a late surge. Contentment takes the Champions Mile. Lucky Bubbles bursting through. Mr. Stunning wider out. Remarkable encounter. Lucky Bubbles charged to the lead and gets his Group 1.
Pat, the December international meeting's well known as being our big meeting at the end of the year, but 3 Group 1s, the one day, Champions Day, the inaugural running, it's going to be a super day of racing. It
is. It's essentially become a spring festival here, Ed, and to have all 3 on the one day, it will bring about greater attention internationally. We have the 3 races combined. It's great for the media. We actually will have a record number of media here for the QE2 Cup itself, and by having the supporting races, it makes a really fun day. A lot of prize money on the line, some great horses, and specifically to the name of the day, Champions Day, there are some championships on the line potentially for the season end champion awards.
Absolutely, and it's still up in the air really who's going to be Horse of the Year, those type of awards. As far as the international horses coming over are concerned, an interesting group, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. The sprint in particular, the combination of Blue Point and Fine Needle, I think will add really an interesting dimension. Blue Point was so unfortunate. I mean, he was, I think, about a 1.9 favorite in Hong Kong when he was withdrawn at the start from the Alcaz sprint for basically probably just having bashed his head in slightly at the on the transport over to the track. And it was real unfortunate because I know Charlie Appleby was so excited about his chances. We have some great Japanese runners coming over from the QE2 and the planned Aidan O'Brien runners. It's a very international day. It's a very exciting day, and it will be great for Hong Kong racing fans both here and abroad.
Let's have a look at some of the horses that are coming over from overseas, and we'll start off with the sprint. Now, you know the Dubai form particularly well. Blue Point had very good English form as a 3-year-old. This is his only run as a 4-year-old. To take on Ertajal in his own backyard and really give him a race over 1,000 metres at Meydan, that's a big effort.
He was racing against the best in Europe as a 3-year-old without question. He actually has a win over some of them too, but in Group 3 company, he got up to the Group 1s as the year progressed, and he maybe didn't find himself up to par here. This was a monumental effort against Ertajal, given that Blue Point, this is his first career start over 1,000 meters, Ed. He's a 1,200-meter horse through and through. This was his one prep to go into the Alcaz sprint. Ertajal came back and run a decent second behind Jungle Cat, who of course eventually goes on to win the Alcaz sprint. But I think Blue Point is a very serious contender. Charlie Appleby has only started one horse in Hong Kong. It was Safety Check, who was the highest international finisher in the Champions Mile behind Morris. It was a decent effort. Charlie's very serious. This has been the plan for a long time with this horse. He just didn't have everything go right in Dubai.
And interestingly, it's a 2-pronged attack as far as the sprint is concerned for Godolphin, because they're also bringing over Fine Needle from their Japanese operation, who won the Takamatsunomiya Kinnan, beating our very own Blizzard.
You know, Let's Go Donkey, who was in this race, was very likely to come, but unfortunately she didn't pull up from the race as well as the trainer would have liked. I thought she had every chance here to beat Fine Needle, but Fine Needle just continues to stay on. We have a great story from Kate Hunter up on our website about the emergence of Godolphin Japan and Fine Needle, and Yuga Kawada just gets Fine Needle over the line there. Look, I think that realistically, Blue Point is a better sprinter. This was not the greatest renewal of this race. There were some tactics involved. I actually really prefer Blue Point to Fine Needle, but both of them will wear the Godolphin blue, coming from slightly different operations and up against some tremendous Hong Kong sprinters. It will make for a very fun edition of the Chairman's Sprint Prize.
Absolutely. Of course, we saw Beat the Clock and Mr. Stunning fight out the Sprint Cup, our main lead-up race as far as Hong Kong form is concerned. Speaking of Hong Kong form, as far as the Hong Kong Mile, let's have a look at the race from the top of the straight. This is back in December. Beauty Generation, the winner. From an international point of view, they were thought that Lancaster Bomber in 5th ran a huge race.
Best performance of the overseas runners. He's incredibly well traveled. Had been second in the Breeders' Cup Mile before this, so it would be great to see him come back and give it another shot, especially as I think he might carry a little bit of freshness, more so than what we see here from Beauty Generation, Western Express, Helene Paragon. But the horse that ran into 4th, that's the horse for me that they're all going to have to beat. Seasons Bloom. He comes out of this, wins, gets his Group 1 in the Stewards' Cup, and I think he could go on and has been rested well for this by Danny Shum. So I think they're going to have to catch Seasons Bloom. Singapore Sling, also a big chance.
Just as far as Lancaster Bomber is concerned, you're in Dubai for Dubai World Cup night. Do we read anything, or what do we read into that performance?
I think he's more of a miler as opposed to the 1,800 meters that he got. And look, Aiden likes to take chances in these spots, and he's knocked on the door so many times, Lancaster Bomber, without getting there, that I think they just want another chance at a Group 1, and he could get it.
He's certainly performed very well in Group 1s all around the world, Lancaster Bomber. As far as the Japanese are concerned, though, in the QE2, we've seen them perform well with Rulership winning it, also Neo-Realism last year. The blue cap there is Arain. Danbarite is in the orange cap, both horses coming over for this year's QE2.
It was these colours that Rulership carried to victory as well, the colours of Sunday Racing. What a strange tactical race this was.
This was the Osaka High, just to set the scene.
Mirko de Muro took off on the backstretch. Slow pace early on. They actually ran the fastest 400 meters of this race around the turn from the 800 to the 400. It was kind of a sit, sprint, and then stay for this race over 2,000 meters. I would take nothing in disgrace here against Alain for running 3rd in this race, considering how strange the tactics were. And the 1st and 2nd, Suave Richard and Persian Knight, very good horses, Group 1 caliber horses, and Alain's been in front of them before too. So I give Alain a massive shout in what will probably be a little bit more tactically straightforward. And of course, Danbarite didn't run all that poorly either. He's a little bit more progressive. Tommy Berry seems to be engaged already for that ride, and that should be very interesting.
Both horses are 4-year-olds. When we look at these 3 races, you think of the overseas horses that have won them before: Variety Club in the Champions Mile, Morris the Champions Mile, Chautauqua the Chairman's Sprint Prize a couple of years ago, Rulership, Neo-Realism. A lot of very good horses have won the QE2 Cup. If there is an overseas win, who do you think is the most likely to pull it off?
I would say Blue Point, mostly because as great as the Hong Kong sprinters are, and there is some progression in them, they have been going around against each other for some time now. And Blue Point is very fresh. Only had the 1 start, and this is the horse we're talking about who was a very clear odds-on choice to win the Alcaz Sprint. I think he would have run away with that race, given the way everything had panned out. I give Blue Point a massive shout to win the Chairman's Sprint, and will be a massive danger to the Hong Kong hopes in the Chairman's Sprint Prize.
Exciting couple of weeks then coming up leading into Champions Day, the inaugural running of the big day on the 29th of April. We're almost out of time for today's show, though. Let's recap what's coming up for Sunday afternoon racing. An 11-race card, so Trackside Live coverage starts at 12 o'clock. Our feature event is the Kowloon Cricket Club Centenary Cup, where Pat believes that Riven will be hitting them for 6. The HKJC website, hkjc.com, is where to go for racing to win on Saturday night and for further information. And you can also follow all of the action through social media at HKJC_racing. Pat, thank you for your time. Looking forward to what will be a busy time for you, but an enjoyable time leading into Champions Day and also Sunday.
Much appreciated. A great time, and thanks for having me back.
Pat Cummings, our guest on this edition of HK Direct. Join us next week on a special time of Thursday, looking ahead at Saturday afternoon racing. Until then, though, we'll see you at Sha Tin. It's goodbye.